welcome everyone. Thank you so much. We've been excited to get this program going today. I'm Amy Dacey. I'm the Executive Director of the Sine Institute. For those of you who are new to Sine, we are the university-wide institute on campus that's really focused on how every sector comes together for good public policy in a nonpartisan way and finding solutions. We were honored this year when Dina Powell McCormick agreed to serve as our distinguished lecturer, and she's come with us today to talk about small businesses and what is the role of corporate leaders when it comes to supporting small businesses, and how can the private and public sectors work together. So right at the mission of Sine, Dina, it's always great that you are bringing us those tenets that bind Sine together. For those of you who don't know, Dina Powell McCormick is a partner in the investment banking division at Goldman Sachs and serves on the management committee. She's responsible for helping to build and enhance the firm's relationships with sovereign clients around the world. She rejoined the firm in 2018 after serving as the U.S. Deputy National Security Advisor for Strategy from 2017 to 2018. So she's been in the public sector and the private sector. She's going to bring such a unique perspective. And joining us today is also a guest that Dina brought to us, Jessica Johnson-Cope, who leads Johnson Security Bureau, where for over 50 years her family has protected people, places, and valuable property. She's also somebody who has taken advantage of the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Business program that Dina and her colleagues have championed. So I want to thank all of you, both of you, for joining us. You know, what we thought we could do, Dina, it's interesting times. There's some unique health challenges, financial challenges, conversations this country's happening. Maybe you could just start with a little overview of where you think we are in the midst of all this unique challenges for the country right now.
Well, first of all, thank you so much, Amy, for having me. I'm so delighted to participate in this program. And of course, the president of American, Sylvia Matthews, is a very dear friend, and I was so delighted when she asked me to participate, and I think you've put together such a wonderful program. I'm really glad Jessica could join us today. She is a good friend and an incredible businesswoman, and I think the reason it was so important to get her voice into this conversation is I really do believe one of the most important things that policy and business leaders can focus on today is empowering small businesses. And maybe I'll just take a minute and step back and tell you how it was at Goldman Sachs that we started to work with small business owners, even though we're not a traditional small business lender. In 2007, actually before the financial crisis, we had really done a lot of research around how we could as a firm participate in inclusive economic growth. And I think the three of us can agree that we quickly got to the issue of the economic empowerment of women. At that time, globally, there was a very low percentage of female entrepreneurs. And we had seen that there were many different worthy programs seeking to enhance their development, like microfinance, which was a very big program at the time. But really what was missing was a program specifically targeted to help female entrepreneurs in the developing world with access to capital, education, and mentoring and networking, and particularly with a segment that are small and medium-sized enterprise owners, not necessarily the micro, but rather the middle size that really, once they are able to create jobs and growth, have a multiplier effect in their whole community. So we very proudly launched 10,000 Women, which at the time was the largest ever investment in the economic empowerment of female entrepreneurs. And I'm happy to report that not only did we reach, I think now we've reached well over 100,000 female entrepreneurs, but we also measured their growth. 80% increased their revenues, 60% created new jobs. But my favorite statistic of all was that 9 out of 10 of the graduates of that program were mentoring other women and really paying it forward, if you will. And so we ended up actually, and this would be interesting for you in terms of the public-private part, working with the World Bank, who said to us, we'd love to take this model, scale it dramatically, particularly when it comes to access to capital, because as you know, whether it's in the United States or globally, female entrepreneurs do not have the ability to access capital at the rates that they need to do so. And so we proudly did a partnership with the World Bank, and we actually together raised more than $1 billion of capital that served as an underlying credit line, if you will, to local banks around the world, that if they committed to lending that capital to female entrepreneurs, they could access this very market-friendly facility. So we did that, and we were very excited. But then we realized that the model worked so well, and we really wanted to test it domestically. And this time, as Jessica and I always laugh about, we did say we had to have all people, men and women, in it. And so we launched 10,000 Small Businesses. And that has been a program that Jessica was in the very first cohort in at LaGuardia Community College in New York. Today, 10,000 Small Businesses has also reached thousands of small business owners across the country in cities as diverse as New Orleans, Detroit, Houston, New York, Dallas, Chicago, and many others. And so we've been excited to see at that time, you know, this just unbelievable engine of growth. And I'm going to give you just two more statistics and I'll pause. But at that time, it was really an unbelievable number. I think something like 60% of all new jobs created in the United States in the past 12 years have been created by a small business owner. And yet they really did need much more support, again, in terms of pragmatic business education, capital, and then the business advising. And so that's what we provide, working through a network that are of our partners. The National Urban League, the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, the NAACP are all nominators to the program. And then we actually deliver the program in community colleges. Jessica can tell you more, obviously, having been one of the best graduates of the program, how it helped her. Maybe I'll pause there and let her share that story with you. But the excitement of the program beyond the individual participation and growth is how much of a community was built with small business owners working together. But Jessica, let me give you a chance to talk about your experience in the program and how much, by the way, she's inspired so many other business people.
Well, good morning, Dina. Good morning, Amy. And
Good
Dina,
morning.
thank you so much for giving the background to the program to help people understand what a difference 10,000 Small Businesses is making for businesses like mine and over 9,000 other businesses here in the United States. I was introduced to the program back in 2009. I read a posting about it in Crane's New York Business. And I thought to myself, Goldman Sachs is a big bank. They work with companies around the globe. This is a very interesting venture that they're trying to do. And one of our business coaches who works at LaGuardia Community College through the Small Business Development Center and through the PTAC, which is the Procurement and Technical Assistance Center, they recommended that we participate or at least apply to the program because they had seen us coming for help and seen us trying to grow our business. At the time, we were not yet at our 50th anniversary. My brother and I had taken over the firm after our father had passed away. We were doing the best that we could, and we knew that we could keep the business going, but we didn't know how. And so we knew that we needed help. And we thought that the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses program would give us the information, the resources, and the little je ne sais quoi that we were missing to help us make it to 50 years. And I said, if we make it to 50 years, I'm good. I've done what I needed to do. And in applying for the program, I sat down for an interview with several panelists, including Dina. And I remember a day back in April 2010 where Dina challenged me to rethink my plans for my business. She challenged me to think about what access to capital in the form of using other people's money would do to help me grow my business. She understood that our business was a pillar in our community. We're based in the South Bronx, New York, and we employ people who might not get the best jobs on Wall Street or might not be able to work manufacturing jobs or good paying jobs. And so Dina's recommendation was to look at accessing capital to build out the business, create additional jobs, and have a greater impact on the community. And here it is 10 years later, and we survived the program. We came through with greater results than we could have expected. I mean, I think in developing a growth plan through the program, we anticipated 20% growth over 5 years. And within the first 6 months, we realized that growth. And so it was the resources with which the program equipped us, the information, the support system of a community of other small business owners, and just rethinking our business from a more global big business perspective that helped put us on track to where we are today, where we employ close to 150 people, where we do business in more than 2 states, where we serve multinational corporations as well as government agencies and other small businesses. And we have a story like so many other small businesses who are putting Americans to work. So we're glad we can share our story and hope that we can continue the conversation about how public-private partnerships work when corporations leverage their experiences to pour into small businesses, and then we don't necessarily have to be reliant on government to do all the work for us.
Thank you so much, Jessica. You know, Dina, what I think I love so much about this program and how you defined it is building a network, so that it's not just the conversation with Goldman Sachs, but it's the conversation also among the participants. And it doesn't seem transactional. This does seem like a long-term investment. So I'm wondering, you know, obviously the subject was small business. Incredible statistic that 60% of all new jobs created are from small business owners. What you mentioned capital. What are some of the other things that you try to help instill in small businesses? It sounds like a more of a mentorship program as well, not just a capital resource. So what other things are you providing, and what did you think, Jessica, were the things that you valued the most in this relationship?
Well, you know, it's interesting. We realized, maybe, if you will, that the special sauce was really linking all of these tools for the small business owner. So the capital from community development financial institutions that we supported that could lend capital to these institutions. And these are lenders that really try to lend to individuals who have maybe never gotten a loan or a credit line, who also need a lot of support in applying for the capital. Obviously, through the community colleges, we had advisors that were assigned, and I think Jessica can tell you she had a couple of incredible people who really followed her and tracked her progress. She could call them if she had any issues. And the third was the actual participation of people at Goldman Sachs who felt very honored to have a chance to work with individuals like Jessica. So she probably got more than she wanted there, because there was so much excitement to watch Jessica grow, whether it was connecting her to a big grant, or not a grant, a contract from the National Urban League, whether it was being coaches. We had these coaching sessions where we would actually ask the small business owners to present their growth business plans. And I would underline growth, because the whole concept here is, what do you need to do to get to that next stage, as Jessica was talking about. And so there was a lot of support in all of these different avenues that I think combined together really helped. But the one that I think we did not think about, honestly, Amy, when we started the program, was that network of small business owners.
Mm.
I remember having one of the business owners saying to me, I feel like I'm an island all alone.
Mm.
I don't know who to go to. I don't have, you know, a whole network of other people that we might think that we have in academia or the corporate world. But it really is a lonely experience to be a small business owner and to be the head of that enterprise with so many people depending on you. And we worried that perhaps in any one cohort, there might be some competition. If there were 2 security firms, you know, or 2 landscaping companies or 2 tech companies, whatever it may be. And it turned out that that was probably the best asset at the end of the day, is that those small business owners suddenly had a network, advice to draw on, peer mentorship, but frankly, a marketplace. So I throw it back to Jessica, but I believe got quite a few new contracts from the actual other business owners in her cohort.
So yes, I agree, Dina. The network was tremendous in being able to not only work with local small business owners who were going through many of the similar challenges that I face, but from business owners across the country, gaining their perspective, hearing how they deal with things in their vicinities and how that might apply to what I do here in New York City. So the network has been tremendous. And even recently, we had a virtual Capitol Hill Day where Goldman helped and to reassemble the team, get the team back together. And we had live virtual chats and meetings with our senators and congressmen to talk about our business challenges, to talk about how we navigated the PPP loan process and how it is reopening our businesses post-COVID. And to know that my friend Rhonda Jackson in LA is, she had the similar challenges in trying to process her PPP, and that my friend Nadia in New Orleans, Teresa in New Orleans, she had to repurpose how she was using her staffing firm to distribute meals as opposed to do event staffing. And using that information to drive my business forward, the network has proven invaluable. But I think one of the special ties that binds that network is the support of the community college coaches, as well as the team at Goldman Sachs, right? So when we talk about corporate leadership, we talk about leadership from the top down. And so when you see a David Solomon go out and talk about what the firm is doing, and he backs up his words with actions, and then you see members of the executive team coaching other small businesses who have come through the program, that means a lot. I mean, that's where the rubber hits the road, because it's a lot to say. Everybody has their corporate governance plans, and but it's another thing to actually put that into action and see the results. And so I think what that demonstrates to me, as well as many of the other program alum, is that we can scale our businesses using expertise from people at Goldman Sachs, using expertise from people who have worked in business but have taken their business acumen to the community college environment, and leveraging what our peers are doing with their small businesses. So the network has just been tremendous, and the support from Goldman and the community colleges has been that special sauce that ties it all together.
Well, it's definitely an interesting model. And when you created this program, Dina, you couldn't have conjured up that we would be going through this global pandemic now, and to have this network that could be talking to each other and talking to you, this was uncharted territory in a lot of ways, what these small businesses were facing. So how did this network and the program that you had built, before this happened, helped small businesses from your perspective at Goldman, and then definitely Jessica, from your perspective, this new challenge to you as a third generation business owner? I'm very curious at this current moment how much that's impacted, your ability to make smart decisions and to try and move forward in this environment.
Well, there's no question that small businesses across the country have been especially hit by COVID. Obviously, so many of them are in the industries that have been nearly devastated: travel, restaurants, services, all the basic services that now, you can't physically do. And so that's really been such a problem. I think that the government support, and I'll let Jessica speak to this, has been helpful, although wading through it has been a challenge, and understanding how to actually access it is something that we've been trying to provide more, assistance to our small business owners on. We did a survey that was really shocking, and how many business owners were unsure that they could survive this crisis, how many had to think about completely retooling. And I think that, it is going to be very, very challenging. Having said that, so many of the business owners, as Jessica was describing, have risen to the challenge in incredible ways. Powell, who owns Red Rabbit Kitchen in Harlem, provides organic school lunches to thousands of school children in New York. And obviously, given the fact that schools have been shut down, he not only tried to keep at least delivering food that could be picked up, but he started working with World Central Kitchen to provide meals for food pantries, to help open up some of the restaurants so that they could do takeout. So he completely started thinking about ways to retool the business to meet the challenges and to keep his employees. I've been so humbled by Jessica's leadership, by Reese's leadership, by Teresa's. The very first thing that they ask every time that we engage with them and have since COVID, it's how do I keep my employees? How do I keep paying them? I do not want to hurt them and their families. And it's truly inspirational for me and my colleagues to see that. So I think that the question now is what more needs to be done to support small business owners in terms of both public and private support. And I actually think, during crises, this retooling gives businesses some opportunities too, to think about using technology more. There will be a whole new slew, I think, of industries and opportunities when we come out of this. Jessica told me that one of the things she's doing now is providing security at new sites, some of the healthcare sites. Maybe you could share a little bit of that, Jessica, because I know a big part of your business was protecting and securing live events, which are obviously not happening. And so she very strategically has found a way to retool and get some new business opportunities.
Yes, we've definitely found some new opportunities in the healthcare space. We've been negotiating with the largest healthcare system in New York for about 2 years to find ways to enter their supply chain. And then as soon as the number of COVID cases in New York City started to increase, we got calls, how quickly can you staff? We need to support the hospital police. We need to set up a testing site. How can you do that? And we've been very fortunate because we are putting people to work who might have otherwise been on the sidelines, not able to pay their rent, not able to feed their families. And so it's allowed us to stay true to our values and our mission, but just being ready. It's the saying that we always say here is stay ready so you don't have to get ready. And part of that was having a growth plan, thinking through where we wanted to go. But then another part of that was having our finances in order, which is something that the program prepared us to do. So when we got to the PPP application, we could submit everything. We had the right documentation, and it made the process relatively easy. We were also able to talk to other alumni in the program and give them information on how to navigate the PPP process, as well as to alert them to other grants and financial resources to help them keep afloat and to keep their employees working. For an example, Roy Castro at D&M Ice Cream, one of my 10KSB buddies, he was trying to figure out how he could keep people working even when some of the restaurants and bodegas that he serviced were closed. And so, just having that camaraderie and sharing that information was helpful, but knowing that we had preparation so that we were able to pivot and to tap into our resources and our network to identify real growth opportunities and to be able to service the client at a critical time of need. That has been something that we're very fortunate to have done, as well as very grateful to be able to do, and know that even though the number of people in hospitals is decreasing, that there'll be an ongoing need and an ongoing need for people to go to work. So again, staying true to our values and leveraging what we know.
Dina, it's interesting. You mentioned, Jessica, certainly, and Reese and Teresa, they're not only small business owners, they're members of their local community. So when you're thinking about these solution-driven, didn't expect these challenges, what are we doing? How important are their voices? You being somebody who also served in the public sector, how important are their voices when we're navigating this and trying to find the solutions to these problems? Because they are on the front lines in their own communities.
They are, and they're the most, if you're trying to gather data about what public policy solutions you should be engaging in or what the private sector can do to support small businesses, you actually have to talk to the ones on the front lines every day, like Jessica and the others we've mentioned. And that is why we put together a 2.5-day conference with nearly every member of the House and Senate committees that oversee the PPP program. Senators Rubio, Senator Cardin, so many who pushed these pieces of legislation through, because they, of course, understood very well the impact that COVID was having on these small business owners. Jessica, I'm not sure if I'm getting this number right, but I think it was a few hundred policymakers who had a chance to engage with all of you, and you were very specific in what you needed. I participated on the call with the head of the Small Business Administration. I moderated that call. And many of our small business owners from across the country gave her very specific, actionable advice and ideas on how to make the PPP process better, and how to make some significant improvements on it. And I would say most of the policymakers were very open to it. I mean, they don't know, they try their best when they're formulating legislation, but until it actually gets into the hands of the small business owners, you don't know how effective it's going to be. Jessica, I don't know if there was a few suggestions I know you had made with some others. You might give an example of how you did that and how it actually impacted them to make some changes.
Definitely. So I would say the three top pieces of legislation we were asking for was another set of funding for small businesses, because the 8 weeks, we made it through the 8 weeks in many instances, and we still need a further injection to continue because a lot of our economy is driven by consumers, and the consumers haven't started spending. So many of us haven't been able to realize the necessary economic impact that we need to keep our businesses going. So an additional round of funding, not round, but a set of funds available to small businesses. We also asked for a greater level of understanding around the emergency unemployment funding. In some jurisdictions, it's with the extra money for unemployment, it's a disincentive for people to return to work. And so if we don't have the workers, we can't provide the service. And so it just creates a loop that doesn't end. And so we asked that they go back and think about that. We also just wanted to say thank you. A lot of times we gripe about what doesn't work, but we realize that the time and that they took to put PPP in place, they didn't waste any time. So they may not have had everything perfect, but the fact that we could access those funds relatively quickly kept a lot of us in business, where some organizations didn't have that opportunity. So we wanted to also tell them thank you and to start the conversation. So as we emerge from the impact of the pandemic, we can help them understand what type of policies will best support the sustainability of America's small businesses.
You know, it's so interesting because you're a business owner, you're looking at, profits, investments, but you're also an advocate in a lot of respects. So it's even business owners themselves are running that public-private, line to do this. How important do you think your advocacy and fighting for these things are for your success as a business owner?
I think that it's completely required that we have to advocate for ourselves, because no one else is going to advocate for us in many instances. I mean, we've been very fortunate that we work with Goldman Sachs through the program, and that Goldman has a great relationship on the policy side, because of the tremendous leadership that they have from the executive level and down. But as a small business owner, I have to advocate for myself, for my employees, and for my community, because many times the people creating the policies don't get to see the small business owner's perspective. They don't hear our stories. And so often they craft the policies in a vacuum and they're removed. And we are often so involved in the day-to-day business of our businesses that we don't have the time to have those conversations. And I think that the thousands of alumni who participated in the virtual Capitol Hill Week recently realized that we have to make time to have those discussions, that we have to start with our legislators in DC, and then have the trickle-down discussion with our local legislators, and that we have to make small business a priority, because small business is the engine that helps to run this country.
It's interesting because you're a part of the inaugural class, Jessica. I'm very interested, Dina, This program's been around for a while now. Are the needs the same? Has there been any evolution or surprises that you've had to add on program, change program for new recruits that you're working with, throughout the course of the program?
Sure. One of our partners is Babson College, which is the #1 ranked entrepreneurship institution. And they really help develop the curriculum. But we also measure the impact. And so we do a lot of surveying, as I mentioned earlier, of our small business owners. Which of these modules helped you the most? How can we improve upon them? And so over the years, we've certainly added modules. So for example, cybersecurity has become such an enormous issue for small business owners, because in order to really keep your platform secure, it is incredibly costly and challenging. And so we brought in some cyber experts and within academia and the outside. And so we added that. We also found that we were able to do, in addition to the core curriculum, bring in other areas of interest to the small business owners. So many law firms across the country participate in employment law sessions with the small business owners, and they wonderfully do it in a pro bono way. And they actually come and sit with the small business owners and talk to them about the challenges that they may have and how to resolve them. Jessica will remember a bit more about the modules. I know using marketing and using social media is something obviously that's been very important to marketing your business these days. So we've really tried to evolve in terms of the needs of the small business owners and the needs of the overall market, and how we can prepare them even more effectively. The other thing is, since COVID, we've been really thinking about new modules that include everything, crisis communications, crisis financial management, dealing with your employees during this difficult time. Obviously, we added all of the government understanding sessions, or how to use PPP effectively. So we're really trying to be very quickly to the business owner, getting feedback constantly. It's a very, and we've actually, as I said earlier, measured and tracked each of the small business owners. Now you might say, why do they, when they graduate from the program, continue to give you their data? It's obviously voluntary. And they do so because they want to stay in the alumni network. I can't stress the alumni network enough, and how much they come together. And I would say it's very touching for me, Jessica, to see that it's certainly business person to business person in terms of advice and help and giving each other business. But I've seen many personal relationships formed as well through this alumni network. And so through this data that we continue to get, we're really a good source of what's happening to small business owners today, what more they need, and how we can continuously improve our program.
Great. I just want to remind people that they can ask questions and throughout, and so please use that function on the Zoom to ask questions. I do have one question I think is probably geared to you, Dina, but I'm sure with your experience, Jessica, in the alumni network, you might know as well. Are there certain sectors that are taking advantage of this more than others in small business, Dina? Are you seeing across, all different types of small businesses, them finding value in this? That was one of the questions.
The diversity of the small business owners is really remarkable. I mean, everything, as I said earlier, technology, security, landscaping, lots around food services, home design. Jessica and I are friends with many business owners who do home design. It's also been exciting for me, quite frankly, to see how many women are daring to be in businesses traditionally occupied by male business owners. So, running a security company is trying in the best of times, but I am just so admiring of Jessica, because it is a bit of a man's world. We've had women in New Orleans who helped rebuild after Katrina run construction companies and have nearly all male employees. And so that has been something that's been very inspiring to me. And Jessica and I have talked a lot about how important it's been that we've had diverse businesses throughout the life of this program. And she knows the statistics more than I do. She can share them with you. But there's been a diversity of industry, but even more importantly, in my opinion, there's been diversity all around in who are running these businesses.
And Amy, what I see is that it's just a hunger to grow and to sustain a business, because there are lots of different programs out there, and many of the 10,000 small businesses alumni have been through those other programs, but those programs left them wanting. And so when they get to 10,000 small businesses, they find something special that helps put their business ahead or at a different level than what they had, where they had been. And so what we find is that people, while they're in the program, will gravitate to others, whether it's by industry, whether it's by specialty, whether it's by geography, and they'll just use the synergy from the other businesses to grow. As an example, Vanessa Lindley, she's a financial coach, and she came through the program a few cohorts after I did, but she's been in to coach my team on financial management. She's helped to give me tools and resources so that our employees can better manage their finances, because when they come to work, they're whole people. And so I can't just look at what security services look like. I have to look at the whole picture. And the 10,000 Small Businesses program helped me to connect with Vanessa and her hunger to serve and educate people on finances. And so you just see that hunger come out, and people find the other people in the program, or the coaches will direct them to other program participants who can help them get where they're going. But what's important is that we learn how to articulate what we need and to flesh it out so it's clear, and to ask for it. Because I think in many cases, you just don't want to ask because you don't want to bother anybody. But I find that the closer firms get to graduation, or once we graduate, they're not afraid to open up their mouth and say, this is what I need. The coaches, even as things started to shut down, the coaches reached out to us to say, how's business going? What do you need? And you could say, I need money, I need transportation, I need this. And they could direct us to the right resources, as well as other alumni who could help us. So that hunger is there, but being able to communicate what the need is also so very important.
I think Vanessa might actually be on, because she just asked a question or made a comment.
Yeah, Vanessa said, as an alumni, it is the best network, both personal and professional. So we do have a shout out from an alumni in there. And she says hi. So we also have a question from James, which I think is very interesting, Dina. I'm very curious to know as well. Are there modules in this program for different groups, for example, women or people of color or the LGBT community, since they may have different problems, concerns, etc., than maybe white males?
Absolutely. We were very focused on that. We actually had one partnership with the Tory Burch Foundation, where we had a cohort only of women and smaller stage businesses that went through the program. Because you're absolutely right, female-owned businesses have unique challenges. Minority-owned businesses have unique challenges. I've learned a lot, from Jessica on that point. And having that particular network is very important, coming together. And, one of the things that, if you look at the numbers, as we said earlier, particularly when it comes to accessing capital, certain groups are really underrepresented. And so we have been very aggressive. We're very proud that the percentage of participants in 10,000 small businesses is well over 50% in terms of minority-owned businesses, and that really beats the national average in other programs. So I'll let Jessica speak to the networks that developed, but I think that we have really, I think we have to be honest and recognize what a problem that is. If you can't access capital, if you can't have access to the same contracts, if you can't have access to a bigger network, you're not going to be as successful. And so we've really got to be focused on those issues in order to really support the business owners.
Well, I have to applaud Dina, because she leveraged her experience in leading the team at 10,000 Women. And because that's such a diverse group of women and covered different continents, understanding how to interplay with the different groups was important in rolling out 10,000 small businesses here in the United States. And 10,000 small businesses is also in the UK. So the program teams can also leverage their experience from across the pond to help impact how well things are rolled out here. I think that, again, just like the hunger in the program participants kind of jumped out. Different people with different affinities kind of connected with each other. So we had growth groups where we were broken down into much smaller, if you will, mastermind groups within our cohort. The natural synergies by industry, by demographics, by gender came out, but we all realized at the end of the day, we all are in this together. So wherein the Tory Burch scholars, they did their thing, and they have a very tight-knit group. People from New York, they have a very tight-knit group. You find your affinity group, but then you also just find what you need for your business to grow. So not that it doesn't matter if you're LGBTQ, not that it doesn't matter if you're a minority. The support system from the nominating partners has helped to create those affinity groups outside of the program itself. So for the National Urban League, I know that other certified minority businesses that came through the Urban League, I can go and use them as a resource. For the National Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, I know that Latinos can use that network to build their affinity group. And so, people just gravitate to people who are like them, and the program just gives you an avenue to come together, and then the natural separation, not separation, but the natural affinities take place.
Well, it's interesting and so great that there's, just an embracing the diversity in these groups. I have to ask also, there's diversity within small businesses. I can imagine, Jessica, you have unique challenges and probably a lot of pressure being a third generation business, right? And just thinking about how you want to deliver for the generations that came before you and keep this going on versus a startup. So I think there was some question, and maybe, Jessica, you can answer it from your perspective, but also Dina, how do you help businesses in these modules might be at a different point, in their trajectory, whether they're just starting out or a third generation business like Jessica?
Well, you go first, Jessica.
Well, I'll say that being a third generation business owner, it's nothing like you can't describe it to anyone because I don't know anything else. I worked for somebody, I was in the pharmaceutical sales industry before I took over our family's business, and it's just a different mindset. It's a different walk. And if you're not an entrepreneur, it's hard to explain what it's like. But a recent coaching session with one of my Goldman Sachs coaches, she reminded me that my primary job is to make sure that this business makes it to the next generation. So that is a very daunting responsibility, but it's not something that I take lightly. And I know that with the network of peers in the alumni group, as well as with the support of the coaches and the program leadership, that I can do it because we've been able to do this for 10 years now. And being coached by former Goldman Sachs CEO, Lloyd Blankfein, and he says, Ms. Johnson, are you at 7,000 guards yet? Even though that idea frightens me at times, I'm reassured by knowing that this business leader who leads people across the globe sees that potential in me. And so that carries a lot of weight. So I don't feel as lonely, I don't feel as burdened, and to realize that to be the best I need to be in my role as a third generation business owner, I need to step back and let others do their work and shine and excel in the areas where they're strong, and to allow them to do that. And the program helped me to better understand that, because otherwise I'd be trying to do everything. And so it's just understanding how to make your business more sustainable, realizing that you are not your business, but you have an awesome responsibility for your business, and to use the resources and people in your network to help your business take on its own life. Those have been key learnings that I've experienced coming through the program, and what's helped me stay positive about taking my business to the fourth generation. Because just in terms of statistics, less than 50% of businesses make it to second generation, and less than 20% make it to the third generation. So I know I'm a unicorn. I don't take that lightly. But I also know that the challenges I face are not the same or not as hard as what my grandparents had when they started the business in 1962. during the civil rights era, during segregation, dealing with Jim and Jane Crow. I don't have those challenges. Granted, racism is still here. It just shows itself differently, but I can go into a bank and access capital. When my grandmother bought her house, she had to have a man sign for her to get that. So we have to be cognizant of the times that we are living in and the opportunities that we have, grab them by the horns, and then just ride that bull to the next generation.
And Dina, how are the modules set up different maybe for a startup versus, you know, a third generation? Do you focus on that in the conversations and the mentoring?
In certain parts or tracks of the program. So the Tory Burch program is actually more early stage, we would call it, not startup, but early stage. But, you know, there is a consistency of the challenges small business owners face, whether they're third generation or just started. What was really terrific to see is business owners like Jessica, who would then really help train, you know, the newer business owners, because she could really have credibility when she would say that my business is, you know, this has been in the family. Probably there's lots of great things that come with having a multi-generational business and things that have to be updated like Jessica did. So I think she was a really great voice to so many. And we would really see that some of the, even in some age diversity, some of the younger businesses would really be trying to help some business owners who, for instance, needed help with starting a website, understanding how to use social media, setting up a LinkedIn page. Again, while there was a lot of support on the academic and business advising side, I would say it was the business owners themselves who made such an effort to help each other. And you know, everybody's going to be in a different part of the journey of that particular small business. But there was a remarkable consistency of challenge and need that was met, I think, probably more by each other than the program itself.
I think these are definitely challenging times, but I would love, we've got to kind of wrap up here a little bit. I would love to get some final thoughts from both of you about what gives you hope, where the aspiration is, where you think, you know, Dina, you mentioned a little bit, there could be opportunities to do new and interesting, innovative things out of these challenges that we have. So I really would love to hear from you both about what you think about the future and what's in store.
Sure. Well, you know, out of every crisis, of course, comes new responses and new things that we focus on in the world. Clearly, just some examples are, you know, telemedicine. You know, now I think there's going to be a huge growth in telemedicine. Home health care. I recently was dealing with an ailing family member, and the home nurses that came were just unbelievable. And you begin to think, gosh, if you can have that kind of care at home, you know, what do how many people really want to necessarily be going to large hospitals? So you can see, you know, real opportunities there. Grocery store, I read a statistic the other day that large and small markets have had something like a 75% uptick in online use. So a lot of people are going to be changing their shopping methods. And so I think new consumer opportunities will emerge. Mobile, you know, everything sort of delivery and mobile, you know, I really see that. And I also see, because I know we have a lot of students on this call, and I just want to share something that I have really seen that I've been proud of, is a recognition of who the real heroes are in our society. COVID has really shined a light on the incredible men and women who serve as nurses, EMTs, grocery workers, you know, just people who are risking their lives every day as essential employees. And I hope that this generation really sees the honor and dignity in those professions. And I really hope that that will, frankly, you know, energize a new surge of interest in those professions. And I hope that we find the ways to honor and respect and, frankly, compensate for these very, very important roles in society. I think a new economic order is likely to emerge after this crisis, and one that is very focused, as we've tried to be at Goldman Sachs with these initiatives, on an inclusive and equitable economy for all.
I
Jessica,
definitely
what
agree.
brings you hope? Yeah, with everything that's happening.
I think that now is the perfect time to become an entrepreneur. We're seeing that a lot of jobs will be eliminated just because of the now normal, right? And so we don't want people to let their talents go to waste. We don't want people's time or treasures to go to waste. So if you have an interest or you have a skill, I would encourage you to look at what that will look like as a business. Search out some of the resources available from the SBA and the community colleges and take advantage of those programs so that you can start your business while you're yet working from home or not working. I would encourage you to reach out to your policymakers and really get them engaged, because they're going to want to know what's next. What do you need? What's working? What's not working? And based on some of the primary results, at least that we've seen here in New York, we're going to see a new wave of policymakers come into office. So now is a great time to establish relationships and start having those dialogues to create long-term impact with those policymakers. And then I'll also encourage small business owners as well as students to engage corporations, right? If you buy one share of stock, vote for the annual meetings, reach out, write letters. I'm big on writing letters. Write letters to the head of the board and to the CEO, COO, so that there's a level of accountability on your part as well as on the corporation's part, because I agree with Dina, there's going to be a new economic world order, and large corporations are already starting to reimagine what their operations will look like, what the economy will look like, and you don't want to be left on the sidelines or left to chance. So write a letter, get involved, get engaged, corporations, start a business, policymakers, you can do it.
It's a great way to end with a call to action, right? We always say in organizing, we need a call to action. And Jessica, I think you really gave it to us. I want to thank both you and Dina. Dina, we are honored to have you as a distinguished lecturer at the Sine Institute, American University. Thanks to you for using your voice. Jessica, you are an incredible addition to the conversation today and to hear from you firsthand. Just a reminder that we will have this information and more information on the program at Goldman Sachs in our newsletter. Please sign up for our newsletter so you get more information. This is also recorded and will be on our YouTube channel. We could have this conversation for several more hours. So I will just say that thank you for the virtual conversation, but Dina, Jessica, you are more than welcome, and we will bring you back on campus in person when the time is right. And we're looking forward to that. I know our students are looking forward to that as well.
Thank you so much, Amy. We're really excited to participate today. I knew that I would bring someone that would easily outshine me. I want to thank Jessica for joining today, and we both really do look forward to coming to campus.
Excellent. Well, have a great rest of the day. To everybody, please stay engaged with the Sine Institute. We'll have more programs coming for you soon. Thank you.
Thanks.